Simplicity is the ultimate sophistication. I think we need to look at how to simplify our sketch in order to make it shine. There are three parts to the simplicity or simplifying, the act of simplifying. The first is how you see, the second is how you think, and finally it's how you execute your sketch. One of the simplest way to simplify your sketch is to think in terms of big blocks of values. In other words, you think in chunks of values but in big shapes, and you simplify it in your head as you see things by values. So let's do an example so that you can understand this. Let's assume that you have a photograph like this, and what you want to do is actually, think about the broad shape to simplify it. So you want to get the lines and the shapes, and over here I just have basically dark and light. So I only use two tones to give you the idea that you could simplify the thinking of your sketch into basically two tones. If you need to do three tones, that's also okay. You may execute the first layer into something like this, and eventually when you actually lift some of the light highlights and darken some of the shadows, you might be able to paint it into something like this. So this is an example of how you could simplify your sketch, thinking about broad shape and two or three tones, light and shade, or maybe somewhere in the middle as well. You might have three, paper white, complete dark, maybe a mid-tone to simplify it. So those are the simple example where you can think in broad shape. The simplest way I know in terms of imposing simplicity to your sketch is to start with a vision of the design in your head. I have a video on this where I use simple letters like L, T, and so on, U, C, X, to basically impose the design into your sketch. And this is basically how you think about your sketch. Let me bring some of the snippets of my previous video. I'll put a link up here for you. But I suggested in that video that you used different alphabets to create your design. Some basic design could be a simple triangle. In this case, almost an M, if you like, as a design imposed on the sketch. This clearly is a Y, the letter Y that you can use to impose on the sketch. And finally, another example would be like an M. The shadow at the back is sort of added, rather the dark background, not shadow, as a mean of design for the sketch. Although the simple two dancers in front are just like the main, the main focus, but the background is a simple design you can add to give it the shape that is here. When it comes to executing, it's about the economy of movement. The way I think about it is that you have to design your watercolor sketch or your sketch, or specifically watercolor, to have minimal touches with the paper. In terms of minimum layering, minimum objects, and think simplistic and think minimally. It's best that your brush touched the paper the least amount of time to get the job done. In other words, if you can do it once, as opposed to having your brush go over the paper twice, it's better to do it once, right? So it's about economy of movement. I'll show you through an example by what I mean. Alright, the first example I want to show is that when you draw lines, for example, being economical about it, it's just two stroke, you're done. Not, tentative touches like this where the paper are gone over a couple of times, and you can see that the result is obvious. The first one shows simplicity, the second one doesn't. Okay, now we're gonna use the watercolor as an example of where you can you minimize the number of touches on the paper. Let's just put two boxes, throw paper color down. The first box, we will wash it with a light green, and then that's green gold, by the way, and then we put in a bit of quinacridone gold, quinacridone roast, and we mix it while it's wet. We try to minimize the number of touches that the brush is interacting with the paper. In this case, hopefully once, maybe twice at most. We leave it to dry, and then the second box we will go over it, where we will touch it and put lots of touches, and we will go over it with same color or slightly different colors, and then we just go over it again and keep going over it, and keep going over it. So when it's dry, let's see the effect of that, right? So the first one, you would see that it's very clean, crisp, and the second one is smudgy and it's just a mess. That's what I mean by simplicity of execution. So there you have it, the 3 things that I highly suggest that you consider when it comes to sketching, and sketching simply, or at least thinking about it with simplicity in mind. The first is to learn to see things in values, and that's the first thing. The second thing is to design it. Use simple alphabets, T, O, X, to design your sketch. And finally, minimum touches on the piece of paper that you're going to use. Be confident, be bold, be economical with your strokes and your brushed touches on the paper. I hope that helps in this video. Simplicity is the ultimate sophistication. I hope you enjoy it. Bye for now.